Location, the lab. Quentin only has 24 hours to sell his car. Is that even possible? He goes to Carvana.com.
What is this, a movie trailer?
He ignores the doubters, enters his license plate. Wow, that's a great offer. The car is sold, but will Carvana pick it up in time for...
They'll literally pick it up tomorrow morning. Done with the dramatics?
Car selling in record time.
Save your time. Go to Carvana.com and sell your car today. Pickup fees may apply.
You're listening to the Telltale Channel. If you like what I do and you want to see me continue to do it, don't forget to check out my Patreon. I just finished writing a book titled Was Hitler an Atheist? It talks about religions during the Third Reich and how they work together. Catholics, Jehovah's Witnesses, and Protestants. And I even address the lies told by the evangelical world about Bonhoeffer. It's on Audible and Amazon. Apparently there's news that martial law is going to be instituted on April 20th. Not for nothing, but that's Hitler's birthday. I mean, I'm sure there are other reasons why that's the potential date. I'm just throwing it out there. Anyway, there's this article by this guy named Jim Stewartson, March 7th. I want to give it a read here. In this deeply alarming opinion piece in the San Francisco Chronicle, Brett Wagner, who served as a professor of national security decision-making for the U.S. Naval War College, raises the specter of Trump invoking the Insurrection Act and martial law. In his day one fusillade of executive orders, Donald Trump signed declaring a national emergency at the southern border of the United States. This is how dictators have always done it, always throughout history. They are given emergency powers, leaders have the ability to declare emergency powers. For Hitler, it was the Enabling Act, where he can basically legislate with the stroke of his pen. He can write new laws and codify them on the spot. They don't have to go through Congress. They don't have to be, referendum vote or any of that. He just writes it, and it's now a law. Executive orders were never intended to be that, because that's a lot of power to place in someone's hands. The only reason that even existed, the Enabling Act, in the first place for Hitler is because Weimar Germany, the government that existed before Hitler destroyed it, when it was created, they saw a civil war brewing under the surface, and they wanted a president to be able to come in and kind of deal with this civil war if need be, with an iron fist, if you will. Well, Hitler took control. He established his emergency powers, and he now can pretty much do whatever he wants with zero repercussions. Every time anybody in the world uses emergency powers, there's an uproar. Justin Trudeau used the emergency powers to deal with the results of a trucker protest and a hurricane, I think. And everybody's like, he's not going to give up those emergency powers. Of course he did. That's ridiculous. But people freak out when that happens, including MAGA. Well, Trump is using emergency powers right now with the Alien Enemies Act, the one that Trump used. It's a wartime power, an emergency power reserved only for wartime use that Trump implemented anyway. So this guy says Trump is going to use wartime powers, emergency powers, to expand his power on April 20th. By the way, the algorithm is hitting me hard right now, completely ignoring me. So I'd appreciate if you watch to the end of the video. Having increased watch time as a percentage and a raw number is what pushes the video further. Also check out my books, owenmorgan.com. All right, back to the video. In his day one fusillade of executive orders, Trump signed the declaring national emergency at the southern border of the U.S. That's the national emergency pretext. This includes the following clause dictating that Trump's designated supplicants, Kristi Noem at DHS, and abusive crusader Pete Hegseth submit a report with recommendations about whether to invoke the Insurrection Act of 1807. Within 90 days of the date of this proclamation, the Secretary of Defense and the Secretary of Homeland Security shall submit a joint report to the President about the conditions at the southern border of the United States and any recommendations regarding additional actions that may be necessary to obtain complete operational control of the southern border, including whether to invoke the Insurrection Act of 1807. Okay, so the Insurrection Act is martial law, effectively. If he did that, it would be pretty much abolishing all laws or putting them on pause and taking full control as a dictator, something that no president has done, certainly not in this context ever, and that no president should ever do. And arguably, this power shouldn't even exist in a democracy. And if you notice, it says within 90 days of the date of the proclamation. April 20th is the last day of those 90 days. So Trump is probably waiting to see how the first 90 days of his administration go. And depending on how he feels, he might just implement it. On Wednesday, and I can't believe I'm saying this with a straight face, Vice President J.D. Vance, Secretary of Defense Pete Hegseth, and Director of National Intelligence Tulsi Gabbard made a big show of landing at the border of Mexico, which is a pretty remarkable thing all by itself. Why would people in charge of our national defense be meeting there? Yeah, so they're all getting off the plane here. They filmed it and everything. Interesting. The plan, as I've reported now for months, is to create a North American empire from Greenland to Colombia. Trump's tariffs and horrific abuse of America's neighbors, the belittling of Trudeau, the saber-rattling at Mexico, Greenland, and Panama, are all pretext. I recently wrote about the plan to carve up the world, an agreement between different groups. Putin, the PayPal Mafia, which is like Peter Thiel, famous Nazi billionaire that funds all kinds of right-wing extremism. And theocratic anti-communists to create a multipolar world free of the burden of liberal democracy. Trump has effectively decapitated the military leadership, including replacing the chairman of the Joint Chiefs of Staff, a 4-star general who is black, with a 3-star MAGA TV personality with the nickname Raisin Cane. Trump fired all the JAGs, the people responsible for ensuring that the military stays within the law, and has Hegseth running around doing things like canceling the plane that dropped the atomic bomb on Hiroshima because it's called the Enola Gay. Yeah, I remember that. Basically removed anything in archives anywhere in the Department of Defense with the word gay. And that it happened to be the plane that dropped the atomic bomb anyway. As Mike Flynn pointed out on 12/17/2020, martial law is a tactic well within their consideration. The Insurrection Act was repeatedly invoked in the lead up to January 6th as a potential way to prevent the peaceful transition of power. Oh, I remember that, yeah. Trump's lawyers got in the way last time because they feared the incoming administration. This time, they will have no reason to fear at all. To get a sense of how far afield we are, here is a federal judge, Beryl Howell, explaining why the very basics of the Constitution, as if to a recalcitrant second grader, to Donald Trump after he illegally fired the head of the National Labor Relations Board. Yeah, he can't fire the head of a union. Like, what? The judge says he fundamentally misapprehends the role under Article 2 of the U.S. Constitution. In our constitutional order, the president is tasked to be a conscientious custodian of the law. I note that 3 months after 1/20/25, when the executive order to determine whether to invoke the Insurrection Act was signed, is 4/20/25. 4/20 is, as noted in an SEC filing, a part of marijuana culture and a favorite meme of Elon Musk. There are dozens, if not hundreds, of examples of this. Yeah, and also it's Hitler's birthday. Again, it's too on the nose. It's too ridiculous. As a sign of the potential actions of the Trump regime, given both its ferocity on one hand and its increasing ineffectiveness on the other, here's the chief proponent of American National Socialism, aka the Dark Enlightenment, Curtis Yarvin, yesterday, practically begging for new and unprecedented abuses of the Richter scale, or the Trump regime will start to wither and eventually dissipate. Curtis Yarvin is his own little subset of bizarre, but we don't need to get into that today. If anyone thinks the regime would not consider invoking the martial law on Hitler's birthday, you've really got to reframe your thinking. The Nazis snuck in the back door and took over. We either squeeze them out or die regretting we didn't. Musk's Tesla stock is tanking. His rockets are exploding on a regular basis. He's deeply unpopular, but this will only make him more desperate, more messianic, and more prone to creating spectacular earthquakes. Head on a swivel, friends. In the meantime, enjoy the fireworks.
I just saw that starship blew up. There it is.
That's the article. Is he going to declare martial law on April 20th? I'll tell you this, to my knowledge, Tesla's earnings report for the year releases April 22nd, and their stock is going to tank hard, as far as I know, when that earnings report comes out. It's going to be a complete mess. So we'll see what happens. Anyway, let me know what you think about it in the comments. That is some deeply disturbing right there. But we got to face it head on, guys. I'm telling you, it's now time to start hiding people in your basement if you have the ability. Hide people in your spare bedroom. Hide people in your fucking bedroom under your bed if that's what it takes, for real. Because they're coming for people right now, immigrants at this moment, and people that protest in favor of Palestine, whether they're immigrants or legal, documented or undocumented or what, it doesn't matter. Anyway, tell me what you think in the comments. We'll be right back. Don't forget to check out my Patreon. Also, take a look at my website, owenmorgan.com. I just finished writing a book titled Was Hitler an Atheist? It talks about religions during the Third Reich and how they work together. Catholics, Jehovah's Witnesses, and Protestants. And I even address the lies told by the evangelical world about Bonhoeffer. It's on Audible and Amazon. Got a little bit of good news for you. Joe Rogan has come out and slammed Donald Trump for what he's doing. Well, let's just listen to it, and we'll talk about it as we go.
But the thing is, like, you got to get scared that people who are not criminals are getting, like, lassoed up and deported and sent to, like,
a literal concentration camp.
El Salvador prisons. I read some story. Was it Glenn Greenwald?
Yeah. The gay barber guy. Yeah. It's scary, man.
Is that true?
Glenn Greenwald is absolutely insane, I'm sorry to say. But I appreciate that he drew attention to this. There's a barber that came from, I think, maybe Venezuela, requested asylum, and was here 100% completely and totally legally. He was here legally, but was sent to a concentration camp because he had tattoos. Not because he had a gang tattoo. He didn't. But because he had a tattoo. Just a normal tattoo, like tattoo. He was sent to a concentration camp for that. We need to start calling them concentration camps because that is what they are. The fact that this is piercing the bubble, like, there seems to be this deep bubble, this, like, what do you go, like this bubble in an echo chamber that is impossible to pierce in conservative spheres right now. And it's like these people don't get any news outside of their little bubble. And Joe Rogan is part of that bubble and is also stuck in that bubble. So the fact that this news got out is a phenomenally good sign. Joe Rogan has been doing nothing but talking about how incredible Donald Trump is for the past, 6 months minimum, more. Year, 2 years, I don't know how long. It's been a while now. And for the very first time, we have him speaking out against something that he did. That is a good harbinger. By the way, the algorithm is hitting me hard right now, completely ignoring me. So I'd appreciate if you watch to the end of the video. Having increased watch time as a percentage and a raw number is what pushes the video further. Also check out my books, owenmorgan.com. All right, back to the video.
Is that story accurate?
With a bunch of these Agua guys, allegedly they got at least one guy who wasn't a criminal, who was just a gay barber who I think, according to the story, came here legally. When you do things quickly and you do things aggressively, that's how you get done. But that's also when mistakes get made.
Right.
And I think a human being plucked out of nowhere and ending up in a country he's never been in a maximum security prison with gang members, seems like a bad thing to happen to me.
It's horrific. It's horrific.
I don't think that should be controversial.
No, that's not controversial at all. Again, that's bad for the cause. Like, the cause is, let's get the gang members out. Everybody agrees. But let's not innocent gay hairdressers get lumped up with the gangs, and then, like, how long before that guy can get out? Is there any...
He will never get out. He is in there forever. People say, like, El Salvador may not return those people. I mean, the United States could get those people back if they wanted, easily and quickly. It's just an excuse that the Trump administration is using for not returning people if they don't want to. I don't believe that those people, I don't believe he's ever leaving. I think he's stuck there until the day he dies, which might be sooner rather than later, disturbingly. Thanks to Joe Rogan. He's in there because of you, Joe, because you endorsed Donald Trump, because you allowed this to take place, because you encouraged it.
Plan in place to alert the authorities that they've made a horrible mistake? And
of course there isn't a fucking plan for this. The plan was to prevent Trump from winning the election. I'm sorry. I'm not going to insult people. I'm not like that. It's not who I am. But this is on you, Joe.
correct it?
Well, if you think about it from a government perspective, and this is where I think it gets quite sinister, is once you've done that, the incentive structure is never going to be to admit that and deal with it. The incentive structure is to say nothing, to cover it up, to pretend it didn't happen, right?
That is horrible.
So someone ends up in a black hole.
Yeah, Joe. Imagine this happened to you. Anyway, the point is that the bubble's being pierced. That is the good news. That's what we need to be happy about. Joe Rogan is starting to see cracks in the system. And, you know, for better or worse, Joe Rogan is like one of the largest podcasters out there. Does he not know that it's flagrantly illegal regardless of if they got the right person or not? Yes, because our judicial system is known for its honesty and integrity and has never sent an innocent person to jail. I trust national security professionals far more than I trust. Are you shitting me right now? So you're saying, I don't know if the judicial system will do an okay job with this, so we should assume this person is guilty. We don't even need to send them through the judicial system because I want to assume the worst possible case instead of sending them through to maybe get the worst case, maybe get a best case to determine whether this is true. Due process to determine if this person really is innocent. This is the exact same argument I hear from Trump nutcases when they say things like, the Department of Education is doing a poor job educating students. They're really bad rates. So we destroyed the Department of Education. No. What are you even talking about? You don't destroy the Department of Education to make it operate better. You give it more funding. It's the most vapid, empty trash anybody could possibly offer as an argument. Anyway, you know, we can take solace in the fact that it's piercing that thick skull of his currently. That's good news. Thanks for helping to make it happen, Joe. Yep, it was on him. For sure, he should be one of those vanished to El Salvador. He is not innocent. Well, I don't know about that. I don't think anybody should be vanished to a concentration camp, but okay. Rogan has the tats to qualify for a trip to El Salvador. Tell me what you think about it in the comments. We'll be right back. Don't forget to check out my Patreon. Also, take a look at my website, owenmorgan.com. I just finished writing a book titled Was Hitler an Atheist? It talks about religions during the Third Reich and how they work together. Catholics, Jehovah's Witnesses, and Protestants. And I even address the lies told by the evangelical world about Bonhoeffer. It's on Audible and Amazon. Got some good news for you. Looks like a Supreme Court pick for Wisconsin just won on the Democratic side. Republicans lost. And it was such a big deal that Elon Musk was pouring millions of dollars into this race and breaking laws left and right, literally promising people $1 million if they voted for the Republican in this race. He got on Twitter and he said, I will pay people $1 million if they show up and they prove that they voted for this person. Somebody tweets, Teddy Schleifer says, Elon Musk has deleted this tweet from 1 a.m. about his upcoming talk in Wisconsin. So this was from March 28th when he sent this tweet. On Sunday night, I will give a talk in Wisconsin. Entrance is limited to those who have voted in the Supreme Court election. Right there, that's illegal. You cannot do that. I will also personally hand over 2 checks for $1 million each in appreciation for you taking the time to vote. Again, illegal. You're not allowed to do that. This is super important, he says. The law is only real if it's enforced, though, of course. He eventually changed the tweet. He edited the tweet, and it said this. On Sunday night, I will give a talk in Wisconsin. To clarify a previous post, entrance is limited to those who have signed the petition in opposition to activist judges. So he's changed it so it doesn't say you can only do this if you've voted, or you can only enter if you've voted. I will also hand over checks for $1 million to 2 people to be spokesmen for the petition. So he's doing the exact same thing. He's just trying to modify it to be legal. And I find it super fascinating that he's even trying to make it legal. Again, the judge that he was endorsing lost. Despite all the money that he's putting into this, despite all of the attention and everything else, he lost. That's a fantastic sign, especially since Trump won that district by 7 points. That would be like 44 to 51. I'm not actually sure what the percentage was that he won, but this judge won the position despite all of this back channel nonsense. Literally, the shit that they complain about Soros doing, which he isn't, they are literally doing right now, paying voters to actually vote and all this other shit. By the way, the algorithm is hitting me hard right now, completely ignoring me. So I'd appreciate if you watched to the end of the video. Having increased watch time as a percentage and a raw number is what pushes the video further. Also check out my books, owenmorgan.com. All right, back to the video. Anyway, it's kind of a good sign to me that Elon Musk felt the need to edit the tweet because he fears that this may come back to bite him at some point. And he's probably absolutely correct. Donald Trump is like 97 or something. He's not going to be around forever. In my personal opinion, I think that when Democrats take over again, which I believe will happen, it will, and I don't even think it'll be that far off in the future. I think that they're going to come after Elon Musk legally, and he knows that. And so it seems like he's trying to cover his tracks as a result. So it's not overtly illegal like that. I wanted to read through this AP News article on it. Judge Susan Crawford preserved liberals' narrow majority on the Wisconsin Supreme Court Tuesday by defeating conservative Brad Schimmel, but in a way, the real loser of the election was billionaire Elon Musk. Musk and his affiliated groups sunk at least $21 million into the normally low-profile race and paid 3 individual voters $1 million each for signing a petition in an effort to goose turnout in the pivotal battleground state contest. That made the race the first major test of the political impact of Musk, whose prominence in President Donald Trump's administration has skyrocketed with his chaotic cost-cutting initiative that has slashed federal agencies. That's not a good way to frame it. With his illegal going in and shutting businesses down technique, despite the fact that he's not allowed to do that, is how it should really be described. Crawford and the Democrats who backed her made Musk the focus of their arguments for holding the seat, contending he was buying the election, which set records for the costliest judicial race in history. Wow, damn. That's interesting. I did not hear about that. The point is that first and foremost, I think what we can derive from this is that our democracy is still intact. As in, we're still capable of voting and elections still function, but they're trying to rig the elections any way they possibly can, they being Elon Musk and Donald Trump specifically. Our election system is in place right now, and it's the way that it's structured is in such a way that the states control the way that it's all run. It's decentralized, and that's another balance of power. It's another protection for democracy. The fact that it's split up the way that it is. That worked against a lot of people. It worked against like the black community in the early days of the civil rights movement, because the states could legally prevent people from, could prevent black people from voting and stuff. Like, we have to pass a constitutional amendment or pass federal laws to prevent states from doing that kind of thing. But the fact that it's decentralized that way makes it much, much harder for people to meddle in it. Like in World War II, before World War II, 1933, and the following election, the Reichstag election in March, after Hitler had already taken control, he changed the way that voting was done, basically, to make it so that the vote was public by separating people into 2 lines. Basically, a line that voted for the Nazi Party and the line that voted for the other people. You should be proud to vote for the Nazis was the whole bit. And they were put into 2 separate ballot boxes, and they were counted separately. And anybody with their name on the wrong list faced retribution and reprisals, like not from the state necessarily, but from from the Proud Boys of the era. The Proud Boys would go around and make people's lives miserable, destroy people's shops. I mean, I wrote about it at length in my book on the subject, Was Hitler an Atheist? It's about Jehovah's Witnesses particularly, because they refused to vote outright, and they faced serious consequences for that, serious social consequences. It was a nightmare to vote the wrong way. The point is that Trump can't do that because of how decentralized the voting system is. And it looks like that is protecting us. That's like one of our last checks. I didn't realize we had so many checks on power, truthfully. Republicans have been trying to erode it for a very long time, but now it's full force ahead. They're not just trying to erode it, they're destroying it outright, disturbingly. But they keep coming up against different checks on power, fascinatingly. And this is yet one more. The fact that states control their own elections. Anyway, the point is that democracy is still functioning in the United States, even though there's a ton of underhanded, dirty cheating, like literally paying people to vote for your specific person that you want. Despite that fact, there's so much outrage in the country that the anti-Elon Musk candidate still won. That's a phenomenally good sign. I am of the opinion that elections don't swing based on who you can convince. I am of the opinion that Republicans are Republicans, and that's just what it is. The best you can hope for is to convince them not to vote. Elections swing when we convince people to vote or not to vote. Like, there are enough Democrats out there, enough people that agree with us, enough registered voters to win every election for Democrats, every single one of them, until the end of time, everywhere. But those people just are not motivated enough to go out there and vote. They just didn't care enough. 33% of the country voted for Donald Trump in 2024. 33% voted against, and 33% didn't care enough to go out and vote. That's basically the split in the country. A third doesn't give a shit. A third wants to destroy democracy, and a third wants to preserve it, basically. So we need to convince the 2/3 that either don't give a shit or are trying to preserve democracy. We need to convince them to get out there and do it. We don't need to meet in the middle. We don't need to, try to appeal to independence or any of that shit. We don't need to move to the right to try to get people who would otherwise vote for Donald Trump to vote for Democrats. That's just not going to happen. It's just not. And if you think that it is, then you're a fool. In this case with Elon Musk, we can clearly see a case where people are deeply disturbed by what is happening right now, and they are disturbed enough to get out there and vote and swing it by a lot. That is a phenomenally good sign. Musk's court race defeat wasn't only because of crushing Democratic margins in deep blue cities like Madison and Milwaukee. Crawford's margins were higher in places where the Musk-backed group America PAC had been active, including Sauk County, just north of Madison, which Crawford was carrying by 10 points after Trump won it by less than 2 points in November. Okay, so this is saying the Democratic candidate carried a district by 10 points. She's 10 points up on Trump, or on the Trump-backed candidate, in a district that Trump won by 2 points previously. Holy shit. That means people are getting out there and voting. They're getting out there and they are doing something about it. They are fighting back. That is phenomenally good news. I have hope for our democracy. I have hope that we're going to come out the other side. I got a text from Cory Booker, like the automated mass text and mass email stuff. I got a text/email from Cory Booker's campaign, I guess, or whatever. I don't know if you guys heard, but he stood up there on the floor of the Senate and spoke for 25 hours and 18 minutes, I think. Here's another check on power. The filibuster. Mitch McConnell eliminated the filibuster in what he called the nuclear option years ago under Obama, because he wanted to make it harder for Democrats to get anything done, and he controlled a very slim majority in the Senate. So he basically made it impossible for anything to get done. The filibuster was there to, if there's a majority in the Senate, 51 to 49, or 51 to 50, including the vice president, they could vote on a bill and pass it through for the president to sign. But if Republicans cared enough, like the opposing party that only had 49 votes, they could stand up there and speak for an indeterminate amount of time, however long it takes, for the Senate to go to recess. Basically, they could stand up there for 8 hours at a time, if that's what it took, to go clear through, to prevent anybody else from taking the floor and holding the vote. Ted Cruz one time stood up there and read Green Eggs and Ham. Bernie Sanders spoke for 8 hours straight one time. The filibuster was basically eliminated when Mitch McConnell wanted to corruptly destroy government and democracy that much more. And it brought everything to a halt. Nothing could ever get done again, ever, as a result of what Mitch McConnell did. Anyway, the previous record for the longest time standing up there to filibuster was 24 hours. And it was Strom Thurmond, I believe a KKK leader, who was trying to prevent civil rights action from going through the Senate. He's trying to prevent black people from gaining equal rights to white people. And recently, a black man took the record from Strom Thurmond, 25 hours. Cory Booker stood up there for 25 hours, and he wasn't protesting a bill. He was, not officially doing the filibuster. He was standing up there to dominate the news cycle and force his Senate colleagues to listen to what he had to say. And he went through a gigantic list of the ways in which Trump is destroying the country for literally 24 hours or 25 hours straight. And I hear you saying to yourself, how did he use the bathroom? And the answer is he didn't. He literally didn't use the bathroom for 25 hours straight. He stopped eating on Friday and stopped drinking water on Sunday. And then on Monday started the filibuster. Finished on Wednesday, I believe. That is fucking crazy. Or maybe finished on a Tuesday. Yeah, maybe it was a Tuesday. That's crazy. He asked people to take his chair so he wasn't tempted to sit. This is doing something. What can, people keep saying, what is the Senate? What are Democrats doing? Why aren't they doing anything? And I keep saying, what can they do? I'm not sure what can be done. This is something. This is putting yourself in an amount of stress and pain for 24 straight hours that I can't even imagine. Literally didn't even sit down for 25 hours straight. Didn't eat. Nothing. Anyway, the reason that I mention this is because Elon Musk and the Republicans and the Democrats are just God, the political situation here is a mess. However, I have only ever donated to one political campaign a single time in my entire life, and it was Bernie Sanders in 2016. And now I keep getting these emails and text messages from other political campaigns begging me to donate to them. And that's really disappointing to me. Bernie Sanders very clearly sold my information to somebody, right? Well, I just got a text from Cory Booker. Owen, it's Cory Booker. Last night I walked off the Senate floor after speaking for more than 25 hours. I may be tired and a little hoarse, but as I said again and again, this is a moment where we cannot afford to be silent. We must speak up. I'm filled with hope. My team just told me that tens of thousands of you have voiced your support for my remarks on the Senate floor. It will be a while before I can fully get through all your messages and powerful stories, but what's clear to me tonight is this is just the beginning. Americans across the country, no matter their title or party, are ready to be heard. I believe that history will show we rose to meet this moment. I think that history will show that Democrats did not rise to the occasion, and that's why we're here. But okay, I understand what you're getting at, I suppose. It will show we did not let the chaos and division go unanswered. That's true, I suppose. It will show that when Trump chose to spread lies and sow fear, we chose to come together, to work together, and to rise together. If you support our movement for justice, opportunity, and freedom, add your name to stand with me. Anyway, there you go. Congratulations to Cory Booker. It seems like that is a bit of good news. A couple of examples of good news that I can bring to you today. Tell me what you think.
We'll be right back. Don't forget to check out my Patreon. Also, take a look at my website, owenmorgan.com.
I just finished writing a book titled Was Hitler an Atheist? It talks about religions during the Third Reich and how they work together. Catholics, Jehovah's Witnesses, and Protestants. And I even address the lies told by the evangelical world about Bonhoeffer. It's on Audible and Amazon. I don't know if you guys are familiar with r/justunsubs. This dude on the Just Unsubs subreddit is talking about r/atheism. So I want to take a look at some of the loudest complaints about r/atheism. Let's see what this guy says. Just unsubbed from r/atheism because what the actual... Here's the r/atheism post. It has 3,000 upvotes, supposedly. If this is real, I assume it is. Christianity is a disease, and we need to eliminate it immediately for hope of a proper society. Join the boycott. Longtime lurker, but I've had enough. That's it. They can take away women's rights, but they can't take away our right to protest. Throughout its history, Christianity has caused millions of deaths and holds society back with absolutely zero benefits for anyone. So far, I think this is indisputable. Christianity has caused millions of deaths and holds back society. Yes, absolutely. Christianity has always stood for like traditionalism or whatever. They're trying to hold society back where it is now and prevent it from making progress. Is that disputable? I don't understand.
By the way, the algorithm is hitting me hard right now, completely ignoring me. So I'd appreciate if you watch to the end of the video. Having increased watch time as a percentage and a raw number is what pushes the video further. Also, check out my books, owenmorgan.com. All right, back to the video.
With absolutely zero benefits for anyone. I mean, there's a community benefit, so I disagree with that one, but okay. I'm tired of these brainwashed people forcing their Sky Daddy's magic book down everyone's throats. Okay, Sky Daddy, super cringy term in my personal opinion. However, that's absolutely happening. This is indisputable, right? People, brainwash people trying to shove their book down people's throats, like Kenneth Copeland, evangelical nutcases? Is that not true? They believe women are nothing more than property, and that is not acceptable. This is generalizing very much. There are good people that are Christian, so I don't want to like throw it all into the same bucket, if you will. But I would definitely say that like evangelical Christianity, Christian nationalism right now is 100% for sure full-blown nutcases that are trying to hold us back, that are trying to bring us back to the 1800s and all of that stuff. I agree with that for sure. They hate women, they hate gays, hate black people, they hate everything we are. Yes, those evangelical groups for sure. They hate George Floyd. Indisputable. There is a Pardon Derek movement, Pardon Derek Chauvin movement going on right now, pushed by Ben Shapiro, the Daily Wire, the largest social media commentary network there is, to my knowledge. I think he's at least in the top 5 on Facebook. So yeah, indisputable. They just stripped women's rights and are happy about it. They want us to go back to the 1800s. Next, they will want their slaves back. Well, I mean, not for nothing, but Donald Trump just signed an executive order to allow segregation again, didn't he? Trump admin dropped the policy prohibiting contractors from having segregated facilities. So the federal government says we're not going to work with anybody that segregates their workforce. And Trump says we're undoing that. People are now allowed to segregate the workforce again. So I don't think it's a far reach to say something like this. They're going to want slaves back. I mean, we are taking steps in that direction, indisputably. And don't call me crazy for saying that, because they just did the unthinkable and stripped away women's rights down to birthing machines only. That's absolutely 100% accurate. They did. Yeah, they reversed Roe v. Wade. These people are a disease to society. I mean, it's very clear they're talking about evangelicals, right? Because it's very clearly not all Christians, like by any stretch of the imagination. There are a lot of Christians that work with us against evangelical extremism and Christian nationalism. Like, what's the name of it? AU. It's Americans United. Americans United is that nonprofit in favor of separation of church and state. It's a coalition of atheists and Christians and Muslims and Buddhists and all kinds of different people. Americans United for the separation of church and state. So there are a lot of good Christians out there. It's not, you know what Christianity does? It polarizes people. And it makes you very sure of your own existing beliefs. If you believe that gay people are icky when you start down this Christian road, you're going to find verses to fortify that, and you're going to be not 100% sure you're correct, but 110% sure you're correct on that. If you believe there's nothing wrong with being gay, you're going to fortify that position by reading the Bible and seeing Jesus say, love your neighbor as yourself, love everybody, take care of your fellow man or whatever. It polarizes people and it pushes them into positions and makes them absolutely refuse to change their minds. So some Christians are good people because they're just good people, and that's it. They're just, they're not bad. And some Christians are bad people because they were always bad people at heart. Anyway, We need to eliminate Christianity specifically if we have any hope of moving forward with a 21st century society. Reading this charitably, I would assume that what they mean is talk people out of being Christian. Not eliminate Christians, but Christianity as a concept. Take that for what you will. I mean, some people would be offended by that, and I would understand. We need to boycott this and fight back if we want to save women's rights. Are we not boycotting this? I think we're all boycotting it if we're not happy with it. If you know any religious person, break all contact with them. Oh, that's not a good idea. They're hateful bigots promoting anti-women sentiment. Once they notice they're getting excommunicated from society, we can start actually advancing as a proper nation. No, it's a bad idea. Don't do that. It's not helpful. That's not moving us forward. We need to not break apart like Jehovah's Witnesses would. We need to mend together like Americans United, like that organization. We need to work together to fight the scourge of extremism. That's it. Let's see. We need to stick together and boycott Christianity. Here's how we fight back. Do not have contact with any Christians. That is stupid. Don't do that. Do not support any Christian business. That's, well, if it's explicitly evangelical Christian, I'm in. Like Chick-fil-A, I'm totally down for that. But if it's just like a Christian, like, really? Do not have any contact with people who eat at Chick-fil-A. Okay, now you're going multiple levels deep with shunning. Come on, no shunning. Don't shun people. Unfriend any Christians on social media. Post in support of women's rights. Post against Christianity. Wear shirts promoting r/atheism. Okay, this is a little cringy now. Tell everyone you know to join in. Call your representatives. Tell them we don't tolerate Christianity anymore. Yeah, this isn't good. Don't do that. Vote for only non-Christians. What non-Christians do you think you're going to be voting for? Yeah, this is a little cringy and painful. We saw Wall Street bets take down the stock markets. We saw how our politics contributed to an election victory. I've personally seen this subreddit help me escape the cult of Christianity. Reddit can change the world. We can do this together, Reddit. We can eliminate this disease to society once and for all. Spread the word. Yeah, this is cringy. And you know what else is cringy? When people say, Reddit, do your thing, or together we can eliminate blah, 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 or we've seen Wall Street bets do this. We can also blah, blah, blah. It's like, that's not how anything works. It's an organizing tool. Twitter is also an organizing tool. There are all kinds of organizing tools. Anyway, wow. Oh, well, I think that's a little stupid to unsub over, but okay, whatever. You feel free. The fact that unironically said Reddit can change the world. Lamau. Yeah, this is cringy. Every time I hear somebody say that, it's super cringy. And a lot of the time, I'll see some Reddit post that says, this guy is trying to hide this picture from the internet. Reddit, do your thing. And it's so painfully stupid to me. God. Wear shirts promoting r/atheism. Lamafau. They hate George Floyd. So I just looked it up, and George Floyd was a Christian. Well, yeah. I mean, obviously, the person was talking about evangelicals in that part, it seems, right? And also, I'm not even sure, like, did he ever speak on Christianity? Who knows? Anyway, the point is that, yeah, they can be cringy sometimes. But I wanted to take a look at, like, what r/atheism has said about their reputation. The reputation of this sub. I've been on this sub for many months now. It's been a cool experience. Nice to talk with like-minded people. But as soon as I leave this echo chamber and look at the comments under religion/atheism-related posts anywhere on social media, there are tons of comments like, cringe Reddit atheists incoming, or go back to r/atheism, or even Reddit atheists, which are being liked/upvoted by many people. Yeah, and that's interesting because I think that most of Reddit is atheist, or at least non-Christian. So I thought, is this sub's reputation really that bad, and why? I heard people saying we are intolerant haters and malicious agitators, but how do they come to this assumption? Most posts I see on here are the stories of people losing their faith, contradictions in the Bible, and atheism-related news. Posts and comments aren't always worded in the most respectful way, but they are never hateful, plus trolling and brigading is forbidden anyway. So why do people not like r/atheism? This person says, are those people just angry about the fact that we have a community and like to give our opinions on religious topics, or do they actually have a point and there really aren't that many cringe people on this sub commenting hateful and inappropriate stuff? I think that atheism by default, like, makes people angry, makes Christians angry, like very angry most of the time. Like, there's something in them that it just like deeply bothers them that there are atheists out there. It's weird. And that, coupled with things like what we saw a few minutes ago, like this guy saying we need to boycott Christians, those two things coupled together leads to this type of thing right here, in my opinion. Like, really, really bad reputation. Anyway, let's continue here. Is this sub's reputation really that bad, and why? And this person says, yes, because the religious really don't like being called out on their bullshit. They will say whatever they want about us because we're the enemy, so they feel justified lying about us in every way their silly little heads can think of, which, you know, is pretty much just the same thing screamed ad nauseum. I agree. I think that's a big component to this. But aside from that, I think that what we're seeing here with this dude who says we can eliminate this disease from society once and for all, I think this is a minority of people on there. I don't think you usually see this type of deal on there. But that contributes to it, certainly. Anyway, tell me what you think about it in the comments. It's just like really interesting that they have such a bad reputation. Like I said, I think it's partially earned. And then the rest is just hating atheists. Tell me your thoughts.
We'll be right back. Don't forget to check out my Patreon. Also, take a look at my website, owenmorgan.com. I just finished writing a book titled Was Hitler an Atheist? It talks about religions during the Third Reich and how they worked together. Catholics, Jehovah's Witnesses, and Protestants. And I even address the lies told by the evangelical world about Bonhoeffer. It's on Audible and Amazon.
MAGA TikTok is like a bizarre place to be. Check this dude out. Listen to what he's saying about how much he loves Donald Trump.
You know, I wake up every morning when I see Donald Trump, our president, trying to implement the policies that we ask him to do.
Dude, I would love it if they didn't blast music in my ear. That would be so fantastic.
Working hard for us. Working real hard for us. When I see that happen, man, I think to myself, I am so happy to be part of the MAGA movement.
Okay, so this video, this came out, when did this come out? 3 days ago, okay? It came out March 20th, 2025. And this dude is so happy to be part of the MAGA movement. You know, I've seen a lot of news articles about MAGA people regretting their vote. But I don't think that the vast majority of MAGA voters regret it, honestly. I think the ones that are negatively affected by it directly regret their vote. But by and large, I think they're all happy with it. Even seeing full-blown concentration camps, even seeing people sent to them who are innocent of any wrongdoing, or at the very least haven't had a court date, haven't had a hearing or anything at all. Nothing. No due process. It hasn't been litigated if they did something wrong. Being sent to a concentration camp, Guantanamo Bay, and the El Salvador mega prison, place where people are disappeared, never to see the light of day, slave labor camp. I don't think these people care unless it directly affects them. And I don't mean like their husband or their wife or something went. I mean, if these people found themselves at this slave labor camp or something, then they would start to care. There is an untold amount of suffering in the United States right now, directly caused by Donald Trump, Elon Musk, and the rest of the MAGA movement. Millions of people. But Trump got like 70-something or 80-something million votes, right?
By the way, the algorithm is hitting me hard right now, completely ignoring me. So I'd appreciate if you watch to the end of the video. Having increased watch time as a percentage and a raw number is what pushes the video further. Also check out my books, owenmorgan.com. All right, back to the video.
Dude got 78 million votes or however many. I have no clue how many. I didn't even check. So 2.5 million federal workers, which is how many there are being fired. Of course, they're not all being fired, but, you know, if they were, that's only 2.5 million MAGA people, if they were even all MAGA, who give a shit. And the ones that were left-leaning that are fired, like the left-leaning family members that they have that are fired from their jobs, MAGA nutcases, like, revel in that. They love it. It's so disturbing and bizarre.
Part of the MAGA movement because I can't imagine being part of the Democratic Party, okay? A party, okay, who is cheering on the destruction of Tesla's dealerships.
The Democratic Party is cheering on the destruction of Tesla's dealerships. Well, let me put it this way. I don't think anybody is cheering on the destruction of Tesla's dealerships. I think people are cheering on Elon Musk's value dropping. And don't you love it? Do you know why that's happening? Do you know why dealerships are being like protested and stuff like that? Because he just destroyed the federal government. Because he is implementing and assisting in a Nazi takeover. Now, I have to imagine this guy's complaint is going to be something along the lines of, what about all the people that work at Tesla? Their jobs are lost. Those poor people, oh my God, so mistreated. Completely ignoring the fact that the reason we're in this position in the first place, where they're protesting at all, is because millions of people are losing their jobs for no fucking reason. And against the law. Elon Musk does not have the right to do any of that. Even if he were Senate confirmed, which he's not, he doesn't have a right to go in there and just like fire people and destroy complete departments like this. So anyway, the reason we find ourselves in this situation is because Elon Musk is destroying things, is my ultimate point.
That's what they're doing. A party that is cheering on the destruction of Tesla's cars.
I assume he's talking about like what, swastikas being painted on them? Look, I don't stand for violence of any sort, political violence or whatever. I don't believe in political violence, and I view vandalism as violence. But, you know, if you bought a Cybertruck after Elon Musk went nuts, after he started doing Nazi shit all over the place, you can probably expect to have your swastika car labeled as such. Again, not calling for that, not saying I want it. I don't. I'm just saying buckle up, because that's what's going to happen.
And keep in mind, I guarantee you, the majority of the people who own Tesla cars, I can guarantee you, are Democrats. But they don't even care. They can't even get past their TDS, right?
Their TDS, their Trump derangement syndrome. My God, dude, get a grip on reality. Like, this disturbs me. You know why? They live in another reality. They are not operating under the same set of facts as everybody else in the world. Not in the United States, in the world. They're in a bubble that is impossible to pierce. And I was thinking to myself, like, what if I were in that bubble? What if I'm the crazy one? What if I'm the one to blame here that's like really completely out of their head or whatever, and I'm just confused and I'm really the bad guy? How would I know that? And I'll tell you, I have a set of core values that I stand for, that I will always stand for and never back down from. And that is human rights come above all else. And I want to reduce human suffering to the best of my ability. Donald Trump overtly, openly stands against those two things. He's causing untold amounts of suffering right now to make himself rich. That's it. I can look at news stories and understand, or I can hear it from Trump's lips. I don't even have to look at news stories. I can hear it from his lips, the fucked up shit that he says, calling Rosie O'Donnell his fat little Rosie, quote unquote. What the fuck? And recognize like how absolutely depraved that is to say some like that about somebody, or to do the things that he does. I don't have to read the news. I have to listen to him. That's why I don't vote for Trump. If you vote for Trump, you are voting for and standing by a scumbag of epic proportions, a disgusting sack of Kamala Harris, whatever you think of her, did not do like that. Didn't go around making fun of people, laughing at people's disabilities, laughing at like disabled reporters and mocking them, mimicking them. She didn't do that. I know that at the very least, I know that you're on the wrong side. No matter what happens, no matter what facts get distorted or confused or whatever, I know you are wrong beyond a shadow of a doubt.
So they are hurting the actual voters maybe who love the Democrats, but they can't see past their hatred.
I don't hate anybody. What the fuck are you talking about? I don't hate anybody. Why does he keep saying can't see past their hatred? Who the fuck hates people? Like, I don't hate anybody. I mean, Donald Trump is a disgusting scumbag of a human being, so maybe he could fall into the hate category for me. But who do you think I hate? I don't understand.
But they can't see past their hatred. I can't imagine supporting a party that cannot define a woman.
can't define a woman. Are you kidding me with this right now? We can define a woman. People have always been able to define woman. Matt Walsh just went on this gigantic propaganda spree about how no one can define woman. And when people defined woman for him, he completely disagreed and just like laughed at them in the video or whatever. What is a woman? That documentary. It was so fucking stupid. Everybody's always known what a woman is. This is what I'm talking about. They live in a delusion. They live in a fantasy land of Donald Trump's creation.
I can imagine supporting a party that want men to play women's sports.
I don't even give a shit. It is such... It's so low down on my radar that I'm more focused on billionaires taking over the U.S. government. I couldn't possibly care less about what's happening in sports right now. I will leave it up to the sports experts to determine if it's, if it gives an unfair advantage. And the answer is no, it doesn't give an unfair advantage as long as they've been in HRT for a set period of time or whatever. Look at the IOC rules. Or I think the NCAA maybe also has some rules about it. I couldn't possibly care less. Why are you even talking about this? It's statistically zero. That's how many people are doing this. Statistically zero. Why do you give a shit?
I can't support a party that...
Oh yeah, and by the way, I'm sorry, one more thing. I don't know what, I don't care what party is coming along or whatever. I don't support Trump. I'm not saying I support Democrats. I don't support Trump, and I don't know how you could possibly vote for him. This guy isn't just telling us he wouldn't vote Democrat. In the beginning, he said he supports MAGA, and he loves what MAGA is doing. Presumably, up to and including full-blown concentration camps.
Women's sports. I can't support a party that will allow young boys to use my little grandbaby's bathroom.
Who the f*** do you think is doing this? Is this a problem that's existed? I mean, have you, found people going into the women's room or whatever just to, take advantage of kids? And since you care so much about people taking advantage of kids, I have to ask, have you spoken up against the Catholic Church or even Jehovah's Witnesses for the way that they handle CSA? If I search your videos right now, am I going to find a single instance or a single mention of the Catholic Church or Jehovah's Witnesses or whatever? Or better yet, am I going to find a single example of you talking about that one dude who's responsible for pushing this bill to legally classify Trump derangement syndrome as a mental illness? Have you talked about this guy? Yeah, this guy. Have you said a word about him?
Every Sunday night during session, I say goodbye to my wife and kids and make the 3-hour trek to St. Paul to fight for our way of life.
To push a bill, to write a bill or propose a bill or whatever, that would legally classify Trump derangement syndrome as a mental illness.
Because day after day, it is under attack from Metro liberals.
A Minnesota state senator just arrested, accused of soliciting a minor for prostitution.
This literally just happened. This isn't 10 years old. This just happened. So am I going to find a single example of him talking about this right here? Somebody really cares about children being taken advantage of, right?
40-year-old Senator Justin Eichhorn is a Republican representing Grand Rapids. Bloomington police say that detectives posed as a 16-year-old girl and arranged to meet with him in Bloomington. Well, he was arrested after arriving in the area of the meeting spot.
Again, I say, you don't give a shit about kids. You never did. You gave a shit about culture wars. You gave a shit about hurting other people in an effort to help your own political movement. You're willing to throw people under the bus to help yourself. That is as low and debased and disgusting as it gets, just about.
His bathroom because they say he's a girl today.
That's not how it has ever worked, but okay.
No, I can't, man. That's why I'm so happy to be part of this MAGA movement. And
you notice what he just did there. I can't vote for that side. That's why I'm happy to not just not vote for them, but completely immerse myself in this whole movement, to be glad to be part of this movement that is sending people to concentration camps.
They when they say MAGA, Hakeem Jeffries always say these MAGA Republicans, use a derogatory language about MAGA.
Yeah.
Listen, man, it is up because MAGA. Who don't want MAGA? Make America great again.
You think that's literally all it stands for? It doesn't mean anything else? You think there isn't any other baggage that comes with the word MAGA? You think you are only trying to make America great again, and that's it? Like Donald Trump isn't a part of it even? He knows better. God, this is such piss-poor propaganda.
It's not a negative. There's nothing negative about MAGA. Black, white, Asian, Hispanic, we all want to make America great again.
Nothing negative about MAGA. Oh my God, dude, please get help for real. Anyway, let me know what you think about it in the comments. It's just insane. We'll be right back. Don't forget to check out my Patreon. Also, take a look at my website, owenmorgan.com. I just finished writing a book titled Was Hitler an Atheist? It talks about religions during the Third Reich and how they worked together. Catholics, Jehovah's Witnesses, and Protestants. And I even address the lies told by the evangelical world about Bonhoeffer. It's on Audible and Amazon. There's a dude named Dean. He's Gen Z, and that's like his whole bit. He's on TikTok. He's debating some MAGA supporters. Let's listen.
Anyways, Ashley, what's going on? Did you vote for Trump?
Oh, I absolutely did.
Why did you vote for the worst president of your life? Why are you part of the worst political movement of your life?
Don't pull any punches.
I voted for Trump for national security.
Okay.
National security includes possibly invading Greenland with the military, starting a war with Europe, isolating ourselves from an allies, and being a Russian asset.
The point that he's making here is that Donald Trump is literally the worst person you could have possibly picked if you're thinking about national security. He's making national security significantly worse. He is very clearly a Russian asset. He's contributing to the United States' downfall on behalf of Russia. And you know what? It isn't even new. He's been a Russian asset since like the 80s. He's been saying things positive about Russia and negative about, the United States and our partners for like decades.
By the way, the algorithm is hitting me hard right now, completely ignoring me. So I'd appreciate if you watch to the end of the video. Having increased watch time as a percentage and a raw number is what pushes the video further. Also, check out my books, owenmorgan.com. All right, back to the video.
I voted for Trump for national security for our
You said that.
country.
Well, I don't think that possibly starting a war with Europe and isolating ourselves from allies will keep our country more secure. If anything, it puts our country at a bigger risk.
And at least, at the very least, if not like starting a war in Europe, allowing one to continue, like the Ukraine war.
To mention that revoking support for Ukraine and putting that burden on Europe increases the probability of a third world war, since they have less power, smaller militaries, and they're right on the front doorstep of Russia. So if you voted for national security, you voted incorrectly.
There is no disputing that.
Well, that's your opinion, but...
No, it's not an opinion. It's not an opinion. It is a fact. If you voted for national security, Trump is factually going to make things worse, going to make the United States less secure. Okay, the dude stored classified documents like the same level of classified as our nuclear secrets. He stored them in his bathroom, okay, next to the shampoo bottles. I guess he didn't want to sit there reading the shampoo bottle if he forgets his phone or something. He's sitting there reading nuclear secrets. Really? That's not secure. What are you talking about?
For me, as a citizen of the United States, he is the best choice to protect all the citizens who live here.
Okay.
Okay, then why the f*** did he let violent offenders that beat up cops and drove stun guns into their necks roam free on the streets? And why does he advocate for tax policy that will make the poor poor when poverty is the root cause of most crime?
So I don't think that's true. I think that...
Look, it's all opinion with this lady. It's not an opinion, okay? This is a fact.
Trump wants peace and he wants to put money back in taxpayers' pockets.
I'm so sorry. What claim did I make that was untrue? Quote me precisely.
Like, he's letting this slide, kind of ignoring the ridiculousness of what you just said so that he can pin her down on this. And I totally get that debate strategy, but she needs to be called out for this, for real. Did you hear what she just said?
I think that Trump wants peace and he...
No? What gave you that idea? The fact that he's talking about annexing Greenland or Canada or Mexico or whatever, is that what made you think that?
Wants to put money back in taxpayers' pockets.
Why'd you get that idea? Who gave you that idea? He wants to put money in taxpayers' pockets. Who told you that? Where did you hear that? It's nonsense. Like, what gave you the idea in the first place? Honestly, I want to know. Why do people think this?
I'm so sorry. What claim did I make that was untrue?
You know, somebody says she's an airhead. And I agree, she likely is an airhead. But bizarrely, like 40% of the country agrees with this assessment. You know, in 1930s Germany, I wrote about this period. Was Hitler an atheist? Amazon Audible, check it out. In 1930s Germany, Nazis were despised. They were made fun of. People thought they were ridiculous. And there's one guy who was writing in his journal. He was a member of the Nazi Party in good standing, like before they took over. And he had been for a while. And after Hitler took over, he got a slightly higher up position in the party. Like, it wasn't even that high. It was just like a normal person, like a block warden or whatever. I don't even remember what he was now. He was just like a normal member of the neighborhood. And he wrote in his journal that in previous years, his family at Christmas time, they used to make fun of him and say he was an idiot for supporting this stupid. And since Hitler took over, suddenly they support him and they want to know what he thinks about stuff. And he's like a hero to them. And I thought to myself when reading that, like, it feels like they were faking it, but I don't think that's the case now. After seeing how everything is unfolding in the United States right now, there is a rightward shift, the likes of which we have never seen in this country. And it's like people you would never expect, people who had a complete polar opposite position are now effectively on the Nazi side. Like Joe Rogan, you know, like him or hate him, he used to be a little bit left-leaning. He was centrist at the very least, and he said some stupid over the years. And he held some right-wing positions, but he supported Bernie Sanders years ago. He was reasonably left-leaning. And now look at him. He's a full-blown, if not a Nazi himself, full-blown Nazi enabler at the very least. How did that happen? It's a complete shift. I just don't know where it all came from. I don't know, like, how this all shifted so suddenly. Or Elon Musk is another example. He used to vote for Democrats long and long ago, and now he's a full-blown Nazi. Anna Kasparian used to be a prominent left-wing commentator, and I don't know if she's a Nazi now, but she's certainly far right. She's most definitely on the right. It's like that moment in Germany where everything shifted, everything changed all of a sudden, inexplicably, and nobody knows how it happened or where or when or what. I feel like that's what we're seeing right now. So all of these people that we're listening to, she probably is an airhead, but non-airheads believe these things too. It's a culture shift like they saw in 1933 in Germany. Bizarre to watch.
He wants to put money back in taxpayers' pockets.
I'm so sorry. What claim did I make that was untrue? Quote me precisely.
She has no idea.
You have no clue. Okay.
Quote.
I made two claims. The first claim that I made about Donald Trump was that he literally let violent offenders that beat up cops and drove stun guns into their necks out of jail to roam free on the streets. Not to mention he's a rapist felon himself.
Exactly, that's not true.
Oh yeah, it is true. His name is.
It's not true. And if you want to pick apart, the crime that's happened, what about the riots?
Thank you for the 10.
What? We're not talking about any of that. That's completely irrelevant. This is the what's the term for this? Oh yeah, it's the tu quoque fallacy, the know you fallacy, where you're saying, what about blah, blah, blah? What about what Biden did? I don't give a shit about any of that. Why is that relevant here? We're talking about what Trump is currently actively doing.
About the
Amara,
riots.
thank you for the $10 super chat over on YouTube, Amara. Thank you so much for the love. Hey man, I just want to clarify that is true. So he pardoned individuals of the likes of DJ Rodriguez, who was arrested following the January 6th insurrection for driving a stun gun into a cop's neck.
Super valuable to know these individual facts like this, but this is 100% accurate.
The cop then testified against him in court for violent assault. Then DJ Rodriguez pled guilty. Not to
What
mention,
about everyone Biden?
Irrelevant. Does not matter.
Pardoned? What about that?
Name a violent
Because if I'm
offender
not
Biden
mistaken,
pardoned.
He's feeding into this. I think Biden probably did pardon or at least grant clemency to some people on death row. He definitely did that. I'm not sure if they were violent or what, but because he's anti-death penalty. But A, this woman has no clue. She has no idea. She couldn't possibly name one. And B, again, irrelevant. This is about Trump, not Biden.
He pardoned people who had child blank on their phones.
I have no idea what she's talking about.
and computers and stuff. So what about that?
So who did he pardon? That was a violent offender or a P3DO?
I like that. P3DO. I like that. That's really good. I'm going to try to use that in the future.
It was some Chinese guy.
What was the Chinese guy's name?
Chinese guy.
Now, you'll have to look it up. I don't really know Chinese names.
Well, your ass needs to look it up. You're sitting here telling us this, and she doesn't know Chinese guys' names, she says.
Now, you'll have to look it up. I don't really know Chinese names all that well, but
what the
if you look on the White House, then
you don't know what did you just say? You don't know Chinese names that well?
I don't know his name. He's Chinese. But it's still a fact either way.
I don't think the reason you don't know his name was because of his nationality. I just feel like you're not that smart of a person, all things considered.
Oh, that is a sick burn. Oh, that was the end. Anyway, fascinating. That was good. I'm a big fan. I love this debate style stuff. Let me know what you think about that in the comments. The sad part is that so many Trump supporters believe this nonsense, and the numbers are growing every day. Tell me what you think. That's all I've got for you. If you like what I do and you want to see me continue to do it, don't forget to check me out on Patreon. I just finished writing a book titled Was Hitler an Atheist? It talks about religions during the Third Reich and how they work together. Catholics, Jehovah's Witnesses, and Protestants. And I even address the lies told by the evangelical world about Bonhoeffer. It's on Audible and Amazon. Okay, thanks for watching, guys.